So this is the video that's going to show you how to calculate averages or means and standard deviation. But before I launch into the directions for this, what I'd like to tell you is that there are a couple other videos already up on the YouTube channel, which is where you should be watching this anyway. So if you look back to a few more of, or back to the more recent uploads that are labeled with old, as part of the title for those videos, it'll show you how to do these same steps in the older version of Excel, but this is the updated version of Excel that is currently on our school computer, so I'm going to show you how to do that with this program. It's very similar, and you should follow similar steps on the Mac if you're using a Mac, but I don't have a video for that yet, and we'll see if I get time to do that. So let's go ahead and get started here. So what I've entered here is a data set. It's a very small data set, 10 entries per column of, let's say this is heartbeats per minute for some unknown species. So we've got some data that we collected from 10 different organisms before, let's say, an exercise treatment, and their heartbeat per minute after their exercise. So we've got their data here, and what I would recommend is you've got your raw data entered in this way. You've got titles for each column, and they don't have to be formal titles when you're processing the data, but they should be more formal and more descriptive, and with units when you present that data table for your IA or any assignment that requires you to do so. All I'm showing you here is how to crunch your data. The formatting is not going to be part of this. Formatting for submission is not part of this video. That's something that you're going to have to figure out, and I'll help you figure it out. So what I'm going to do is actually create another set of points for my statistical analysis. And the first thing that I'm going to look for, I'm going to write here is my mean, caps lock is on, mean and standard deviation. And we're going to type in before and after. And so I'm just basically making a grid here, and I'll go ahead and let's see if I can figure out very quickly how to put borders around it. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this format of Excel. Here we go. I think I'm going to the right place. We'll go to border and hit OK. All right, so this is going to be a data table, and I can update this with better titles. But let's go and calculate mean for before and after. So you could use your calculator to do this. This is very easy. You know how to do that. Add them all up and divide by, in this case, 10, because we have 10 points. But we're going to use Excel to do this. So I'm going to click on the cell that I want the data to go into. Click on fx, or function, if you remember from algebra, fx, and I'm going to look for average. Now, in IB we call it mean, Excel calls it average. It's the same term. Or you could type in here and type in average, click go, and that's our top hit. So I'm going to click that and click OK, and then I'm going to tell it to what numbers or what cells to average. I'm going to click this blue button here that takes me back to this screen and select all of the data that I want it to average. Now the neat thing about telling you what cells to use is that if I realize that I made a mistake, let's say here in A6 where my mouse is, that I have 62 here, and I realize looking at my raw data that's handwritten in my notebook that it should say 63 and I mistyped it in. If I updated that 62 to 63, it would automatically update the average that we're putting in here in F2. So I'm going to go and click OK, and I get 63.9. Now, we're going to do the same thing for the after column. So again, click on Insert Function, Average, OK, and I'm going to select all the data from the after column, click OK, and I get 84.1. Now looking at that alone, it looks like after has a higher heartbeat per minute than before. But as you know from your reading, we have to take into account standard deviation, or the spread of the data around the mean. But before we do that, I want to point out that this is good IA practice. We have one decimal point here in these data points, but we don't have any in our raw data, and they need to match. So because our raw data has no decimal places, I need to round this to the closest whole number. So I'm going to right click on it, click on Format Cells. I'm going to go to number and then number again. And I don't want any decimal places. So here it's rounded. Now let's look at our standard deviation. To calculate the standard deviation for before, I'm going to go back to FX and type in, I see already here STDEV. But if you don't see that on your screen, you type in STDEV and click OK. And I'm going to tell it what numbers to pick, just like we did with the average. And it needs all the data points. You can't put in the average or the mean for this point because a standard deviation has to calculate how far each data point is from the mean. So you need to give it every data point to use to calculate that. So we'll put that in, hit OK. And we see here that it's about 5.5. And we'll do the same thing for after. Sorry. Okay, so we got 5.5 for before and 8.8 for after. Now that's a lot of decimal places. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Because standard deviation is important, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to put it to 2 decimal places. Now this is something that I would ask you to actually ask me a question about in class, and we can talk a little bit more about it. But for these purposes, I'm going to keep it at 2 decimal places, hit OK, and it takes it down to 2 decimal places. So now that we have this information, we can graph it. And that's going to be the next video. So I'm going to stop there and make this its own resource, okay? I'll see you in the next video.